I'm watching Isabella cry again, and this time I don't move from my chair. The porcelain teacup feels perfectly weighted in my hands as I take another measured sip. Earl Grey, 2 sugars, no cream. Exactly how I've always preferred it. The irony isn't lost on me that, in my previous life, I never got to finish a single cup in peace. There was always some crisis, some emergency that Isabella needed me to solve. "Camilla, please," she sobs, mascara streaming down her cheeks in theatrical rivulets. "You have to help me. Dr. Harrison is going to fail me, and Father will disown me if I don't graduate medical school." I set the cup down with deliberate care, the soft clink against the saucer, the only sound in our family's sunlit breakfast room. Through the French windows, I can see the garden, where I used to study for hours, helping Isabella with her assignments while she painted her nails or texted her boyfriend. "That's unfortunate," I say, my voice carrying the same conversational tone I might use to comment on the weather. Isabella's red-rimmed eyes widen. In my first life, those tears would have had me scrambling to my feet, already mentally cataloguing which of my completed assignments she could copy, which professors I could sweet-talk on her behalf. 25 years old, and I'd been solving her problems since Father married her mother when we were 12. "What do you mean, unfortunate?" Her voice pitches higher, more desperate. "Camilla, you always help me. You have to—" "I don't have to do anything." The words taste sweet on my tongue, sweeter than the tea. "You're 25 years old, Isabella. Perhaps it's time you learn to solve your own problems." She stares at me as if I've grown a second head, which, in a way, I suppose I have. The head of someone who died at 28 in a hospital bed, poisoned by the very stepsister now begging for my help. The head of someone who spent her final moments wondering why her throat was closing up, why Isabella was smiling down at her with such satisfaction. "But Dr. Harrison hates me," Isabella continues, apparently convinced this is just some temporary madness that will pass if she keeps talking. "He's been picking on me all semester. Everyone knows he has favourites, and I'm not one of them. Dr. Richard Harrison." I remember him clearly now, a stern, principled man who valued merit over charm. In my previous life, I'd actually met with him 3 times on Isabella's behalf, carefully explaining her learning difficulties and family stress. He'd been sceptical, but ultimately agreed to give her extensions and extra credit opportunities. What I hadn't known then was that Dr. Harrison had been investigating academic fraud in his program for months. He'd had his suspicions about Isabella's dramatic improvement in performance, her uncanny ability to submit work that matched the writing style of her academically gifted stepsister. "Dr. Harrison doesn't hate you," I tell her, lifting my cup again. "He simply expects you to do your own work." "Do my own work?" The lie comes so easily to her, just as it did 6 years ago. "He's just prejudiced against me because I'm not some boring bookworm like—" She catches herself before finishing the sentence, but we both know what she was about to say. "Like me. The boring bookworm who graduated top of her class in biochemistry, who spent her 20s managing Father's pharmaceutical company, while Isabella played at being a medical student." I take another sip of tea and watch her process this new version of me. The version that isn't immediately leaping to rescue her from the consequences of her own choices. "Camilla." Her voice drops to a whisper, and she moves closer to my chair. "I know we haven't always been close, but we're family. Family helps family, right? Family." The word she used while literally poisoning my morning coffee 6 years from now. Well, 6 years from the first time. This time, I'm going to make sure things go very differently. "Of course we're family," I agree pleasantly, "which is why I have complete faith in your ability to handle this situation yourself." Isabella's face goes through several interesting expressions. Confusion, anger, panic, then finally settling on a calculating look. I recognise all too well. She's wondering if she can manipulate this situation to her advantage, perhaps paint me as the villain in whatever sob story she tells father later. Fine, she says, straightening her shoulders. I'll figure it out myself. But don't expect me to forget this, Camilla. When you need help someday, I'll handle it myself, I finish calmly, just as I always have. She storms out of the breakfast room, her heels clicking aggressively against the marble floor. I know she's going straight to father's study to spin some tale about how I've become cold and selfish, how she's so worried about my mental state. That's fine. Let her run to father. Let her waste time trying to turn him against me instead of actually studying for her exams. In my previous life, her grades had been propped up entirely by my work and my intervention with her professors. Without that support system, her true academic ability, or lack thereof, will reveal itself soon enough. I finish my tea in peaceful silence, savouring each sip. Through the windows, I watch a cardinal land on the garden fence, its red feathers brilliant against the morning light. In my first life, I would have been too stressed about Isabella's crisis to notice such simple beauty. My phone buzzes, a text from my research assistant at the company. The Morrison project results are in. The enzyme inhibitor shows 97% efficacy. Want to review the data this afternoon? The Morrison project, my breakthrough research into targeted cancer therapies. In my previous timeline, I'd been too distracted by Isabella's constant emergencies to give it my full attention. The project had eventually succeeded, but not until after my death, when my research notes were discovered and published under Isabella's name as part of her miraculous late career pivot to pharmaceutical research. I type back, yes, set up a meeting for 2 p.m. and prepare the patent applications. This time, I'm going to make sure my work is properly protected and credited. This time, I'm going to watch Isabella fail entirely on her own merits, instead of riding on mine. The morning sun streams through the French windows, warming my face as I sit in the quiet breakfast room. For the first time in either of my lives, I feel truly at peace. There's something profoundly liberating about refusing to be responsible for someone else's choices, especially when those choices led to your murder. I hear father's study door slam, followed by Isabella's voice rising in agitation. She's already starting her performance, no doubt painting herself as the victim of my sudden coldness. But father is a businessman, first and foremost. He values results, and without my constant interventions, Isabella's results are going to speak for themselves. I pour myself another cup of tea from the elegant silver pot, a wedding gift from mother before she passed, back when I was too young to understand that not all family members have your best interests at heart. The second cup tastes even better than the first. Through the walls, I can hear Isabella's voice growing more shrill, more desperate. She's not getting the sympathetic reception she expected. Father must be asking pointed questions about her grades, her study habits, her actual progress in medical school rather than just her emotional state. Good. Let her explain herself for once. Let her try to justify why a 25-year-old woman needs her stepsister to solve every problem in her life. I have work to do today. Real work. Important work. And for the first time in 6 years, I'm going to do it without interruption, without crisis, without someone else's emergency derailing my priorities. The cardinal outside takes flight, disappearing into the blue sky. I watch it go with a small smile, then rise from my chair. My tea is finished, my decision is made, and my second life is finally beginning on my own terms. Isabella can burn. This time, I'm going to watch. 3 days pass without a single emergency text from Isabella. It's the longest stretch of peace I've had since father remarried. I'm in my office at Blackwood Pharmaceuticals reviewing patent applications when my assistant Emma knocks. Miss Blackwood, there's a Dr. Harrison here to see you. Says it's about your stepsister. Interesting. In my previous life, I'd always gone to him. This time, he's coming to me. Send him in. Dr. Richard Harrison is exactly as I remember. Salt and pepper hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and the bearing of a man who's seen too many students try to cheat their way through medical school. He settles into the chair across from my desk with the weight of someone carrying uncomfortable news. Miss Blackwood, I apologise for the intrusion. I know you're busy running your father's company. Not at all. What can I do for you, Dr. Harrison? He adjusts his glasses, clearly uncomfortable. It's about Isabella Morrison. I understand she's your stepsister? Morrison, not Blackwood. In my previous life, I'd never paid attention to the fact that Isabella kept her birth name for school records while using Blackwood socially. Another small detail that makes perfect sense now. She is. What's the situation? I'm afraid I have to report her for academic misconduct. The evidence is substantial. He opens a manila folder, spreading several documents across my desk. These are 3 assignments she submitted this semester. The writing style, the research methodology, even the citation formatting. They're identical to work submitted by a graduate student 6 years ago. I lean forward, genuinely curious. A graduate student? Camilla Blackwood, yourself. His eyes search my face for a reaction. The biochemistry program keeps all exceptional theses on file. When I noticed the similarities, I did some checking. Your undergraduate work shows the same patterns, the same brilliant insights wrapped in identical phrasing. My breath catches. In my previous life, I'd been so focused on helping Isabella that I'd never considered she might be copying my old assignments word for word. I'd assumed she was at least changing things, making some effort to disguise the theft. I see. I keep my voice steady. And what are you planning to do about this? University policy requires expulsion for plagiarism of this magnitude, but he hesitates. I wanted to speak with you first. If Isabella has been pressuring you, if there are family circumstances I should consider. Dr. Harrison, I interrupt gently, what makes you think I'm involved in this? His eyebrows rise slightly. Well, naturally, I assumed, that is, the work she submitted is clearly yours. The logical conclusion would be that you've been providing it to her. The logical conclusion would be that she's been stealing it. The silence stretches between us. Dr. Harrison stares at me as if seeing me clearly for the first time. You're saying you had no knowledge of this? I'm saying Isabella is an adult who makes her own choices. If she chose to steal my work, that's between her and the academic board. I gather the papers, studying them with clinical interest. Though I am curious how she accessed my undergraduate files. Those should be secured in the university archives. Dr. Harrison's face darkens. They should be, yes, but someone with administrative access could retrieve them. Administrative access. My mind immediately goes to Victoria Morrison, Isabella's mother and father's wife of 13 years. Victoria works in the university's Student Services Department, has worked there since before she married father, a connection that always seemed coincidental until now. Dr. Harrison, I assume you'll be conducting a full investigation into how these files were accessed. Absolutely. This level of systematic fraud suggests a much larger problem. He stands, collecting the remaining papers. Miss Blackwood, I owe you an apology. I assumed you were complicit when, in fact, you appear to be as much a victim as the university. After he leaves, I sit in my office chair, pieces clicking together like a complex chemical equation, finally balancing. Victoria hadn't just married father for his money. She'd married him to give Isabella access to resources. My resources, my work, my life ultimately. My phone rings, father. Camilla, we need to talk. Come home immediately. His tone tells me everything. Isabella has escalated whatever story she's been spinning, and now I'm being summoned for judgment. In my previous life, I would have rushed home in a panic, already rehearsing explanations and apologies. This time, I finish reviewing my patent applications first. I arrive home to find father in his study with Victoria, both wearing expressions of grave concern. Isabella sits in the corner chair, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, though I notice her makeup is perfectly intact. "Camilla," Father's voice is stern, "Isabella has told us some very disturbing things about your recent behaviour." "Has she?" I take the chair across from his desk, crossing my legs casually. "What sort of things?" Victoria leans forward, her perfectly manicured fingers clasped together. "Camilla, dear, we're worried about you. Isabella says you've been cold, distant, refusing to help with her studies when she's struggling so much. I've been encouraging Isabella to be more independent. I thought that would be viewed positively." "Independence is one thing," Father says, "but family supports family. We don't abandon each other in times of need." The irony is so sharp it could cut glass. Family supports family, except when that family member poisons your coffee and steals your life's work. "I agree completely," I say, "which is why I'm sure you'll both be interested to hear about Dr. Harrison's visit to my office today." The temperature in the room drops noticeably. Isabella's tissues freeze halfway to her face. "Dr. Harrison came to see you?" Victoria's voice is carefully neutral. "Yes, he wanted to discuss Isabella's academic misconduct case. Apparently, she's been submitting my undergraduate work as her own, word for word in some cases." Father's face goes through several expressions before settling on confusion. "That's impossible. Your undergraduate work would be archived. How would Isabella even access it?" I let the question hang in the air, watching Victoria's face carefully. "She's good. I'll give her that." Her expression barely flickers, but there's a tightness around her eyes that wasn't there before. "That's exactly what Dr. Harrison is investigating," I say. "He seems to think someone with administrative access to university records might have retrieved my files." Victoria stands abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Isabella wouldn't do such a thing, and even if there were some mistake, some accidental similarity—" "Mother," Isabella's voice is sharp. "Stop." We all turn to look at her. The tears have dried up, and there's something calculating in her expression that I remember from my deathbed. A look of someone weighing options, deciding how much truth to reveal. "Just stop," she repeats, standing as well. "Camilla clearly isn't going to help anymore. Fine, we'll figure something else out." "Isabella Morrison." Father's voice cuts through the air like a blade. "Did you steal your sister's work?" The use of her legal name, not Blackwood, hits the room like a physical blow. Father only uses formal names when he's absolutely furious. "She's not my sister," Isabella says, and there it is. The truth she's been hiding behind fake tears and family loyalty speeches. She's never been my sister. She's been a convenient resource, nothing more. Victoria looks stricken. "Isabella, please." "No, Mother, I'm tired of pretending. Tired of having to smile and play nice with little Miss Perfect while she gets everything handed to her. The company, the respect, the brilliant reputation, all because Daddy's first wife was smart enough to breed before she died." The venom in her voice is exactly what I remember from my hospital room. This is the real Isabella, the one who could look me in the eye while I was dying and feel nothing but satisfaction. Father's face has gone completely white. "Get out?" "What?" "Get out of my house. Both of you." His voice is deadly quiet. "If my stepdaughter is a thief and my wife facilitated it, then neither of you belongs in my family." Victoria rushes toward him. "Jonathan, please, let me explain." "Explain how you used your position to steal archived academic work. Explain how you raised a daughter who thinks theft is acceptable. Explain how you both betrayed my daughter's trust for years." I remain seated, watching the scene unfold with detached interest. In my previous life, I would have been devastated by this family explosion. I would have tried to mediate, to find some solution that kept everyone together. Now, I simply observe as the people who murdered me reveal their true natures under pressure. "You'll regret this," Isabella hisses at me, as Victoria drags her toward the door. "You think you're so smart, so perfect, but everyone has secrets, Camilla, everyone." The threat is unmistakable. In my first life, she'd carried it out 6 years later with a cup of poisoned coffee. This time, I'm ready for her. The house feels different without Victoria and Isabella's presence. Cleaner somehow, as if their absence has purged years of accumulated toxicity from the air. Father sits in his leather chair, staring into his whiskey glass, like it might contain answers to questions he's only just learned to ask. 25 years, he says quietly. I've been married to Victoria for 13 years, and Isabella lived under my roof for 25. How did I not see it? I pour myself a small glass of brandy from his bar cart. Because they were very good at hiding it. And because you're a good man, who assumes others share your values. He looks up at me with eyes full of regret. I failed you, didn't I? All those years watching you sacrifice your time and energy for Isabella's problems, thinking it was noble sisterly love. I should have questioned why a brilliant young woman was constantly solving someone else's crises. You couldn't have known. The lie comes easily because the truth, that in another timeline their deception works so well it literally killed me, would sound like madness. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. We need to meet. Coffee tomorrow at 10 a.m, Meridian Cafe. Come alone, S.I. Isabella. Still trying to control the narrative, still believing she holds cards worth playing. I show Father the message. His jaw tightens. Don't go. This feels like a trap. Of course it's a trap. I delete the message without responding. But not the kind she thinks she's setting. The next morning, I don't go to Meridian Cafe. Instead, I'm in Dr. Harrison's office at the university, watching him spread more documents across his desk. These aren't student papers. They're employment records, access logs, and email printouts. The investigation has revealed something extraordinary, he says, adjusting his glasses. This academic fraud goes back 7 years. Victoria Morrison has been systematically accessing student records and selling information to various parties. Selling information? Test schedules to students, willing to pay for advance notice, research data to competing pharmaceutical companies, and, in Isabella's case, providing complete access to archived work from high-achieving students. He taps one particular document. Your undergraduate thesis wasn't the only work she stole. We found at least 12 other cases where Isabella submitted work originally created by other students. The scope of it takes my breath away. This wasn't just personal vendetta against me. It was an entire criminal operation using Isabella as the front person, while Victoria pulled strings from inside the university system. Dr. Harrison, what kind of consequences are we talking about? For Victoria? Criminal charges, certainly. Fraud, theft of intellectual property, violation of privacy laws. The university's legal team is preparing a case that could result in significant prison time. His expression grows grimmer. For Isabella, expulsion is just the beginning. Every institution she's applied to will be notified. Every paper she's published will be investigated. Her medical license application will be automatically rejected. In my previous life, Isabella had murdered me just before she would have graduated and begun her residency. She'd killed me for nothing. Her medical career was already over, destroyed by her own greed and stupidity. The irony is almost poetic. There's something else, Dr. Harrison continues. The pharmacy board has opened their own investigation. Apparently, Isabella has been using her connection to your family's company to forge prescriptions for controlled substances. My brandy glass from last night might as well have shattered in my hand. What? ADHD medications, primarily. She's been selling them to other students. The prescriptions bear your father's company letterhead and what appears to be your signature as a licensed pharmacist. The room spins slightly. In my first life, I'd wondered how Isabella always seemed to have unlimited energy for partying, while claiming to study constantly. I'd assumed it was natural resilience, not pharmaceutical enhancement, bought with forged prescriptions bearing my name. Dr. Harrison, I need copies of everything, every forged prescription, every fraudulent document, and I need you to coordinate with the police. This has moved far beyond academic misconduct. An hour later, I'm in my car, driving toward the one place I know Isabella will eventually appear, Victoria's apartment downtown. She was evicted from the family home, but she's not stupid enough to disappear entirely. Not when she still believes she has leverage over me. I park across the street and wait. In my previous life, patience was never my strong suit. I was always rushing to solve problems, to fix situations, to make everything right for everyone else. Death, apparently, has given me a new appreciation for strategic timing. At 2:47 p.m, Isabella's red BMW pulls into the parking lot. She looks terrible. Hair unwashed, designer clothes wrinkled, the kind of desperation that comes from watching your carefully constructed life collapse in real time. Victoria emerges from the passenger seat looking equally dishevelled. I give them 30 minutes to settle in, then make my move. The apartment building has basic security, but Victoria's keycard still works. They haven't thought to change the locks yet, another sign of how thoroughly unprepared they were for their schemes to unravel. I knock on apartment 4B with the calm confidence of someone who holds all the cards. Isabella opens the door and her face goes through a fascinating series of expressions. Surprise, anger, fear, then settling on desperate calculation. "Camilla, I knew you'd come." "Did you?" I step into the apartment without being invited. Victoria is sitting on the couch, surrounded by boxes and legal documents, looking like she's aged 10 years in the past week. "We can work this out," Isabella says, closing the door behind me. "All of us. This doesn't have to destroy everyone." "Doesn't it?" I take a seat in the armchair across from Victoria, crossing my legs casually. "Let's see. Academic fraud, prescription forgery, theft of intellectual property, selling controlled substances. Did I miss anything?" Victoria's face crumples. "Camilla, please. I know what we did was wrong, but Isabella's future was forfeited the moment she chose to be a criminal." I turn to look at Isabella directly. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could keep stealing from me indefinitely?" "You never cared about any of it!" Isabella explodes, her composure finally cracking. "Your research, your grades, your perfect reputation. It all came so easily to you. You didn't even appreciate what you had. So you decided to take it." "I decided to level the playing field. You got everything handed to you because your mother died and Daddy felt guilty. I had to fight for scraps." The delusion is breathtaking. "Isabella, you lived in a mansion. You had a full-ride scholarship. You had every advantage money could buy. But I didn't have the one thing that mattered. I wasn't you." Her voice drops to a whisper, and for a moment I see genuine pain in her eyes. Perfect Camilla, with her perfect brain and her perfect future. Do you know what it's like living in someone's shadow? In my previous life, this moment of vulnerability would have melted my heart. I would have felt guilty, would have tried to find some way to help her even after everything she'd done. But I remember the taste of poison in my coffee. I remember the look of satisfaction on her face as I died. "I know exactly what it's like," I tell her. "The difference is I never tried to murder the person casting the shadow." The words hit the room like a physical blow. Victoria gasps. Isabella goes completely white. "What are you talking about?" Isabella whispers. I stand up, smoothing my skirt with deliberate care. "I am talking about your plan to kill me. The one you'll try to execute in about 6 years when you realize this academic fraud has destroyed your medical career permanently. That's insane. I would never. Ricin in my morning coffee. You'll extract it from castor beans using the knowledge you gained from stealing my biochemistry research. You'll time it for a day when I'm working late at the lab, so it will look like an industrial accident. Isabella backs against the door, her face a mask of terror. You're crazy! You're completely... The only reason you'll fail this time is because I already know. I've already changed my coffee routine. I've already secured my research. I've already made sure that everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. I walk toward the door, and Isabella scrambles out of my way. The police will be here within the hour, I tell them both. Dr. Harrison has provided them with complete documentation of your crimes. Father has given them access to company records showing the forged prescriptions, and I've provided them with a detailed statement about your threats against my life. I pause at the door, looking back at them one last time. In my previous life, I spent 28 years trying to save you, Isabella. This time, I'm going to watch justice take its course. The door closes behind me with a soft click, sealing their fate. 6 months later, I'm standing in the conference room of Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, watching my name being etched into a Crystal Award for Breakthrough Cancer Research. The Morrison Project, now properly renamed the Blackwood Initiative, has just received FDA approval for human trials. Miss Blackwood, the pharmaceutical board chairman says, your enzyme inhibitor represents a paradigm shift in targeted cancer therapy. The projected impact on survival rates is extraordinary. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I can see the city skyline where my new life is taking shape. Father has officially made me Chief Research Officer, and my patent applications have generated more licensing deals than the company has seen in its entire history. My phone buzzes with a news alert. Former university administrator sentenced to 8 years for academic fraud scheme. Victoria got 8 years. Isabella got 15. Thanks to the prescription forgery charges and the attempted murder conspiracy that investigators uncovered when they dug deeper into her background. Apparently, I wasn't her first victim. They found evidence of her trying to poison a roommate 3 years earlier over a boyfriend dispute. The roommate had survived, thinking it was food poisoning. She'd never suspected Isabella until the police interviewed her during the investigation. Miss Blackwood? The chairman is waiting for my acceptance speech. I step forward to the podium, looking out at the room full of researchers, board members, and journalists. In my previous life, I would never have lived to see this moment. Isabella would have killed me 2 months ago, and these same people would be reading about my tragic accident in tomorrow's papers. When I began this research, I say, my voice steady and clear, I believed that the greatest breakthroughs come from dedication, integrity, and the courage to pursue truth even when others try to steal it from you. A murmur runs through the crowd. Most of them know about the academic fraud case that made national headlines. Today's approval isn't just a victory for cancer research. It's proof that stolen work has no lasting value, that shortcuts lead nowhere, and that authentic achievement always rises above deception. The applause is warm, but I'm not quite finished. This treatment will save lives, not because someone copied brilliant work, but because someone created it with their own hands and mind. That distinction matters more than any of us realize. After the ceremony, I drive to Hillcrest Cemetery. It's been 6 months since I visited Mother's grave, but today feels like the right time. I place fresh lilies on her headstone and sit on the small bench Father installed years ago. I won, Mum, I tell her quietly. I actually won. A familiar voice behind me makes me turn. Congratulations on the award. James Wellington stands a few feet away, holding his own bouquet of flowers. In my previous life, he'd been Isabella's fiancé, the handsome medical resident she'd stolen from me during our sophomore year of college. He'd proposed to her just 3 months before she murdered me. James. I stand, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" He gestures toward a nearby headstone. "Visiting my grandfather. I saw you from across the cemetery." He pauses, studying my face. "I heard about Isabella and her mother. I'm sorry you had to go through that." "Are you?" The question comes out sharper than I intended. In my first life, James had been completely taken in by Isabella's act. He'd believed every lie, every manipulation, every tearful story about how difficult I made her life. "Camilla, I owe you an apology. A massive one." He runs his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remember too well. "Isabella told me so many things about you over the years. Made you sound cold, jealous, controlling. I believed her because I wanted to, because it made choosing her easier. And now I realize she was describing herself." His voice is heavy with regret. "The woman I was engaged to was a criminal, a fraud, someone capable of attempted murder. And you tried to warn me, didn't you? That day at the hospital when you saw us together, you said something about people showing their true selves eventually. I remember that day clearly. In my previous life, I'd been heartbroken watching James with Isabella, but I tried to be gracious. I'd wished them well and made some comment about hoping they'd be happy together. He must be thinking of a different conversation. But then I realize, in this timeline, I've behaved differently from the beginning. Maybe I had warned him, in subtle ways I don't even remember. Maybe the confidence that came from knowing the future had changed how I interacted with everyone, not just Isabella. James, you don't owe me anything. Isabella fooled a lot of people. She didn't fool you." His eyes are intense, searching. "You saw through her completely. Even when we were all criticizing you for being unsupportive, you knew exactly what she was." A strange sensation washes over me. In my first life, James had been lost to me the moment Isabella decided she wanted him. But this James, this version who's seen Isabella's true nature, is looking at me like I'm someone worth knowing. "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" he asks quietly. I know it's probably too late, and I know I have no right to ask after everything, but... "James," I interrupt gently, "I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not sure I'm someone you'd want to know." "You're stronger," he says immediately. "More confident. More yourself, if that makes sense. The woman who just gave that speech about integrity and truth. That's who you really are, isn't it? Not the person who is always apologizing for Isabella's behavior or trying to fix everyone else's problems." He is not wrong. Death and rebirth have certainly clarified my priorities. "Dinner would be nice," I hear myself saying, "but let's start with coffee. I have very particular feelings about coffee these days." His smile is genuine, transformative. Coffee sounds perfect. As he walks away, I realize something extraordinary has happened. In saving myself from Isabella's plot, I've accidentally saved my relationship with James too. Not by chasing him or fighting for him, but by being the person I was always meant to be, someone who values herself enough to set boundaries. My phone rings. Father. "Camilla, are you sitting down? I just got off the phone with my lawyer." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." His voice is almost giddy. "Isabella's been trying to contest my will from prison, claiming she deserves part of the company as my stepdaughter. But here's the thing. When I divorced Victoria, I had my lawyers review all our family documents." I wait, sensing something significant coming. "The adoption papers Victoria claimed to file 13 years ago when we married, they were never processed. Legally speaking, Isabella was never my stepdaughter. She has no claim to anything. The irony is perfect. Isabella spent years stealing from me, convinced she deserved what I had by virtue of family connection. But she was never actually family at all." "There's more," Father continues. The insurance company is pursuing her for fraud related to the fake medical documents she created. And the pharmaceutical companies she sold research data to are filing civil suits. Even if she gets out of prison early, she'll be paying damages for the rest of her life. I close my eyes, feeling the last pieces of my previous life finally settling into place. In that timeline, Isabella had succeeded in taking everything from me, my work, my future, my life itself. This time, her greed and jealousy have destroyed her completely, while leaving me stronger than ever. Camilla, you there? I'm here, Father. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. After I hang up, I sit for a few more minutes in the peaceful cemetery. The late afternoon sun filters through the oak trees, casting long shadows across the headstones. In the distance, I can see James placing flowers on his grandfather's grave, his movements careful and respectful. Tomorrow, I'll return to my lab where a team of researchers is working on treatments that will save lives. My life's work will continue under my own name, protected by patents I filed myself. Isabella will remain in prison, paying for her crimes while I build the future she tried to steal. But today, in this quiet moment beside my mother's grave, I simply appreciate the profound satisfaction of justice served. I didn't save Isabella this time. Instead, I saved myself, and that has made all the difference.